What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA channel. And today we're talking again about this beef back and forth between Ariel and Michael Bisping, which I thought was done. My last video on this topic was the beef is done. And you know me, I am a sucker for some good old-fashioned beef. And this is what makes this sport so much fun. We don't have this, I don't think, at least to my knowledge, this fun type of back and forth with journalists and fighters and former fighters and all this type of drama that we do like so much. We don't have this in other sports, I don't believe, but we have it in mixed martial arts, and it makes the sport awesome. So for those of you who are saying, hey, I'm just obsessing over the drama, well, maybe to a small extent, but I do find it fascinating and interesting, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen next. I hate to say it, it's the same way I like fight buildups that involve a little bit of drama. So yes, I'm talking about this one more time. And I thought the beef was done because Ariel refused to return fire after Bisping and Paul Felder's last comments. He was even asked about Paul Felder's comments on his show, and he declined to respond. So I thought the beef is done. But Michael Bisping is continuing to throw jabs, and I'm shocked by this because the last thing that Michael Bisping said was just, Ariel, just keep my name out of your mouth. Just let it be. So I thought they were both going to go their separate ways. Yet in this video today, which Michael Bisping did a great job, he responded to Eddie Hearn, and I'll talk about that as well briefly, just to give the introduction to this video. But Michael Bisping decided to throw a couple shots at Ariel without ever mentioning him by name, but he did throw some shots fired, and I'm here to cover it and react because, like I said, I don't know, I'm a sucker for this stuff. So just to give you a little bit of background on this interview, Eddie Hearn, massive boxing promoter, one of the biggest boxing promoters in the game. Anthony Joshua is one of his fighters amongst many others, but he went on Ariel's show, an MMA show. Again, Ariel's show is now transformed into like boxing, MMA, and wrestling, which is a bummer for somebody like me because I only tune in for the MMA. But I mean, Ariel's got to do what Ariel's got to do. He's got to do what's interesting to him. So full respect. It's just no longer my cup of tea unless he's talking about MMA, right? I have no interest really in boxing or WWE or any of that stuff. But he had Eddie Hearn on. He's had him on many times. I like the Eddie Hearn interviews, but Eddie Hearn then goes on to insult, to me, I feel insulted by it, to insult the MMA fan base. I mean, this is a primarily MMA show, and he goes in to say that MMA is this like less great cousin or something, a relative of boxing, and boxing is better. More people are searching for boxing, and this is the true combat sport, not MMA. And as an MMA fan, I mean, we've talked about this. Justin has talked about this. There's so many things about MMA that I think, look, boxing is fine. It can live in its own universe, but it's not fighting. It's the beauty of mixed martial arts is we really get to see, if you have an unlimited tool set, essentially what goes down between two men. It's ultimate competition. You cannot compare it to boxing when it's a limited set. I mean, it's the same thing as tying one arm behind your back and calling it one arm boxing and say this is a true brilliant sport, but it's just not real combat. It's not a real fight to see who would win if things went down and anything is allowed. And that's why we love mixed martial arts so much. There's nothing left on the table. There's no, hey, well, if you would have let me do this, I would have beaten you. Or if you let me do that, if we take it outside, it's going to be a different story. No, what goes down in the cage is it done. And that's why the sport is so brilliant. So when Eddie Hearn is talking negatively about MMA compared to boxing, I take offense, number one, but number two, maybe people might say I'm wrong for taking offense, but I do feel offended, number one. And number two, it's just a ludicrous thing when you have the greatest boxer of all time knowing that a lower level tier UFC star could beat all the top level boxers in a street fight or in a fight in a cage, right, with no rules. So to me, that makes mixed martial arts the true combat sport, the ultimate pinnacle when it comes to combat sports. He also says some things about there being no stars in the UFC. I mean, I've kind of heard that. I disagree, but I'm obviously a big fan. So there's a ton of stars, in my opinion, that I love. Islam Makhachev, Ilia Topuria, Israel Adesanya is still in the mix. We have Hamzat Chimaev, DDP. I mean, John Jones is still in the mix. Tom Aspinall is a legend. There's so many fighters. You want to not call them superstars? I mean, fine. You're not really dialed into this. And there's so many others that I haven't named. But to me, the UFC is brimming with stars and fun personalities. And so we're going to have to agree to disagree. But anyways, let's jump into the drama. Let's jump into the mix. So we're going to start off at the beginning of the video. Bisping wastes no time throwing some jabs at Ariel. Let's kick it off with this clip. Here we go.
He's one of the biggest boxing promoters on the planet. He was on an MMA show yesterday.
Won't name Ariel. He would say Ariel's show. He was on an MMA show yesterday. And look, you see Helwani right in the back there. So we know where he's at. I'm just surprised that he's even using footage from Ariel's show, given how much I'm just shocked that he would even do this. and I have to believe at this point, Ariel's got to fire back. I mean, you're using footage from his show, and now I'm using footage from your show, I guess, whatever. But you're using footage from his show to make a video that's going to generate some buzz for your YouTube channel. I don't know. It's just very funny. Okay, check this out.
Was talking about how MMA, mixed martial arts, is pretty much the poor relative compared to boxing. That all the searches online by the kids are all for boxing. That all the superstars are for boxing. That he can't even name any superstars in the world of mixed martial arts. And that basically MMA is a bit old, it's a bit tired, and it's going nowhere. Listen, Eddie Hearn, as I said, he's a good guy. He's an incredible promoter. And he's a boxing promoter, okay? So, of course, he's going to say these things. Now, if he was talking to an MMA
not, of course he's going to say these things. There's no reason to. Why are you trying to go head to head with MMA? What, I don't see the point to it. You don't see MMA promoters going on there and spending their time trying to disparage boxing because they don't care. It's irrelevant, and it's you can have both live in the same universe and both be interesting, but I think because MMA is on such a rise, is on such a tear, we know it's taken over the world, in my opinion, taken over the globe as the most dominant sport one day. I believe, I've said this from the get-go, people may disagree. So there's no reason to even bring up boxing, in my opinion, from the MMA side, but he feels the need to do it. Why? Probably because boxing is on the defensive. They're trying to reclaim some of the territory that they've lost to MMA. So it just goes to show what the true reality is based on the fact that he feels the need to bring this up. But anyways, I digress. Here we get into the good stuff. Let's go.
Person, if he was, and if Eddie Hearn said, like,
wait, I gotta step down his line. Let me back it up.
To an MMA person, if he was, and if Eddie Hearn said, like, there's not even 6 stars in MMA right now, you would have thought that maybe the MMA guy would have said, hold on, let me educate you. But first of all, let's listen.
So he's saying if he was talking to an MMA person, implying obviously that Ariel's not an MMA guy, then he would have corrected him and said, wait a minute, hold on a second. And tried to stick up for MMA. But Ariel did it, and I don't know why he did it. I'm kind of bummed as well. So I actually agree with Bisping here. But hey, there's the first shots fired, but it's not the last. Okay, now we're going to go to a second point in this interview. So once again, Eddie Hearn here. This is the clip of Eddie Hearn side by side with Bisping, says some things, and Michael Bisping's got to throw that jab again against Ariel. Check this out.
You said to me now, name me 6 UFC superstars.
Hold on. Name me 6 UFC superstars. Whoever's conducting this interview right there, if they're an MMA guy, you would have thought that they would have interjected and said, hold on, you want 6 MMA superstars? We could name some off the top of my head. I don't know. John Jones, Tom Aspinall, Dricus du Plessis, Islam Makhachev, Ilia Topuria, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Paddy Pimblett, Nate Diaz, Hamzat Chimaev.
5 minutes later.
Max Holloway. Who else? Francis Ngannou, by the way, who took on Tyson Fury.
Okay, enough. So yeah, Nate Diaz not really in the UFC anymore, but still, point taken. The same point that I was making at the beginning. Of course, it's brimming with stars. It's ridiculous. But if he was talking to an MMA guy, he would have listed them off. One more shot there, and he doesn't stop there. He ends with one more. That's 3 different mentions in this video. I don't know why he's doing this, because I think Ariel's now going to have to respond, and I don't know. But anyways, all right, here, check this out. The final jab from Bisping.
And you know what the real irony of all of this is that he's saying all of this while sitting on a mixed martial arts podcast. As I say, I'm not trying to talk shit with Eddie Hearn. I've got tremendous respect for what he's done in the boxing world. I've met him. I've talked to him. He's a great guy. So I wish him nothing but the best. But as an MMA guy, I had to come out and, defend the sport a little bit. If only someone was in the room that knew something about MMA that could have just course corrected the narrative a little bit. Anyway, let me know what you think about that in the comment section. Please subscribe.
My God. And so there it is. I feel like in a lot of these videos, I've actually been on Ariel's side for the most part. And I don't know why Bisping just keeps beating this dead horse. I don't know why he keeps going after Ariel like this. I thought they kind of would let it be, but he keeps going. But that being said, I feel Bisping's frustration, because it's almost like as MMA fans, we want to claim Ariel as our guy, our journalist. And so you would assume that if it comes between, I know he's a boxing fan too, but you assume if it comes between boxing and MMA, he's going to stick up for the MMA world and the MMA fighters. That's primarily who he has on the show, and he did it. And I don't know, I feel some kind of way about that. So anyways, I'm actually kind of glad Bisping made this video and made this reaction. But let me know what you guys think is coming next in this crazy beef that I've been documenting. The gauntlet's been thrown down. I said the beef was down. I say the beef is back now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.